for the month of July. And having said that, I'm going to call for the motion to approve the agenda. Deputy Mayor Deschamps, I think you have that motion.
I do. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter. The municipal council approves the agenda as amended with the removal of item 8G.
Thank you very much. Calling the question, those in favor? Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you. And going now to item number 3 on the agenda, which is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Are there any disclosures here this evening? No disclosures noted. Delegations and presentations, we have none this evening, and the minutes will so reflect. And so now I'm going to item number 5 on the agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on June the 28th. Those minutes have been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions in the minutes of the meeting of June the 28th as circulated? Okay, if there are no errors or omissions, then I'm going to call for the motion to approve those minutes. And Councillor Hunter, I believe you have that motion.
Myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, that the municipal council receives and approves the minutes of the regular meeting dated June 28, 2021.
Thank you very much. Discussion, if any? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Good. The motion is carried. Thank you. And now I'm moving to the next item on the agenda, which is business arising from those minutes. Does anyone have any business arising questions related to those minutes? Hearing none. I'm hearing none. I'm about to move on. And moving on then to item number 7 on the agenda, which is approval of various committee meeting minutes for meetings held during the month. The first is 7A, Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hunter. The municipal council receives the minutes of the public library board meeting dated May 25th, 2021.
Okay, we're receiving those minutes. Discussion, questions of the councillor? Is our representative on the library board? No questions. Vote to call motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And now I'm going to the minutes of the Committee of the Whole Community Development. Deputy Mayor Deschamps.
Yes, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that municipal council receives and approves the minutes of the Committee of the Whole Community Development meeting dated July 5th, 2021.
Thank you very much. Motion is on the floor. Is there any discussion? Questions, if any? If not, I'm about to call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. And before I go on to item 7C, which is the minutes of the Committee of the Whole, Administration and Finance, Councillor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Cameron. The municipality council received and approved the minutes of the Committee of the Whole Administration and Finance meeting dated July 12th, 2021.
Thank you very much. Discussion, if any?
Just one question.
Go ahead.
Have we heard anything? I don't think we have through correspondence, but have we heard anything on the police services board or through Solgen?
To the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have had no follow-up as of right now.
Thank you.
Other questions from the minutes? Hearing none. Vote to call the question on approval of those minutes. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And so now I'm at item number 7B on the agenda, which is the minutes of Committee of the Whole, Public Works, Environmental Services and Facilities. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you again. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hunter. That municipal council receives and approves the minutes of the Committee of the Whole, Public Works, Environmental Services and Facilities dated July 19th, 2021.
Thank you you very much. The minutes are on the floor for discussion, if any. So I have a couple of questions. First of all, on page 37 of 144, I think it is. Can't be right.
37.
Can't be 37.
Was it 47?
Let me have a look and see. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I made the note in the wrong place.
Maybe it was the last meeting
37 might be the last.
for advance.
Oh, I'm gonna skip it because I've obviously made the note wrong and I don't want to spend the time trying to find what I was going for. But one of the, well, we'll just deal with it later. Have I called? No, I haven't called the question on that motion. Those in favor? Motion is carried. Excuse me. All right, now then, that completes the approval of various meeting minutes. So I'm at item number 8 on the agenda. And item number 8 on the agenda, start with item 8A, which is the application for severance at 2107 Jokum Road, Councillor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Council Chairman, that the fellow council recommends in favor of a severance fee 89-21-2107 Jokum Road, Russell, with the conditions that a minor variance be obtained to allow lease or frontage on the severed retained lot. The fee be waived by the minor variance as recommended by the committee of the whole, community development.
Okay, discussion, if any? Hearing none, about to call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. So now I'm at item 8B, which is a revised recommendation for the severance on South Street. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dillabaugh that municipal council recommend in favor of severance fee 80-21 bracketed South Street Jansen / 1504-107 Ontario King, other bracket, with the condition of a minor variance be obtained to address the deficient rear yard setback, and the applicant entered into a development agreement to the satisfaction of the township to implement the recommendations of the hydrogeological study prepared by Morley Associates.
Morley Associates. Okay. And so that's the motion on the floor, discussed at the committee level. Are there any questions arising from the motion? Hearing none, I'm about to call a question on the motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And I think now I'm at the item 8C, which is the Connell Road culvert cured in place pipeliner. Councillor Dillabaugh, but before I go on, can somebody tell me what the page reference is for that one? I don't have a page reference on my notes. 102 of 144? Correct. Thank you very much. All right, so, and that's Councillor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Council Cannon, that the council authorize staff to award the culvert cure in place pipeliner project to Canadian Water Works in the amount of $72,000 plus non-rebated HST. Cover this spend of $27,000 unbudgeted portion through the storm sewer reserve. And 2, authorize Director of Operations to execute the necessary documents as recommended by the committee of the whole, Public Works, Environmental Services, and Facilities.
Thank you very much. The motion is on the floor, well discussed at committee level. Discussion any? Hearing none, I'm about to call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. So now I'm moving then to item number 8D on the agenda, which is the South Nation Conservation request for use of a non-open road allowance. Councillor Hunter.
Move myself, second by Deputy Mayor Disha. Municipal Council approved the request for the use of the on-open road allowance by South Nation Conservation Authority to conduct timber harvest operations to direct staff to develop an agreement with South Nation Conservation stipulating the conditions for use as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, Public Works, Environmental Services, and Facilities.
Thank you very much. And this motion is on the floor as well, also well discussed at committee level. Is there any further discussion on the motion or the issue? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. And now then I'm at item 8E, which is the Cardinal Waterfront paving additional work. Deputy Mayor Deschamps.
Thank you, sir. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter. The municipal council authorized the CAO to proceed with additional paving at Cardinal Waterfront under one of the existing contracts to an upset limit.
Current
contracts to an upset limit of $155,000 and cover the cost through the federal gas tax fund as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, Public Works, Environmental Services, and Facilities.
Thank you very much. Again, well discussed at the committee level. Is there any further discussion on this matter or this issue? Hearing none. Vote to call the question on the motion. Those in favor? Aye. Motion is carried. And now I'm moving to item number 8F, which is the port sale of surplus land. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you. Again, it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Bylaw that the municipal council directs the port general manager and mayor to proceed with the process of selling surplus property identified as Park Lot 36, Concession 1, Edwardsburg, Part 1, 15R 9899, Edwardsburg Cardinal, and return to committee with a recommendation regarding the sale as recommended by the Port Management Committee.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, well discussed at the port meeting and a lot of follow-up information following that meeting. And I'll just say, just by way of follow-up to what went on at the port committee meeting, that it has now been determined that the golf course is in fact the owner of the old CPR right-of-way from its junction with the CN main line to County Road 2. So the golf course has that well documented, and I've seen the letters from the golf course lawyer to the executive of the golf course, assuring them that the deed issued by CPR has been registered in the name of the golf course and providing the document or the instrument number. So that part of the issue is settled. Part of the issue that is not settled, and the surveyors are now working on it, is immediately adjacent to that CPR right-of-way, which is now totally in the hands of the golf course, is a small, thin sliver of land. It's the sliver of land that was noted as 6012. The ownership of that strip is still somewhat in question. But again, that's the larger part dispensed with. So any further discussion on the motions on the floor? Still none. No further discussion. I'm about to call the question on the motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Okay, so that pretty much concludes the action and information items from committees. And item number 8G has been removed from the agenda. So I'm proceeding to item number 9 on the agenda. Item number 9 on the agenda is approval of or receipt of correspondence packages. And I believe it is Councillor Hunter who has that motion.
Myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Disha, municipal council received correspondence listed for the following dates as previously circulated. July 5th, 2021, July 7th, 2021, July 15th, 2021, and July 23rd, 2021.
And so we have 4 correspondence packages from July. Discussion, if any. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And I'm about to go to item number 10 on the agenda, which is approval of the municipal disbursement sheets. And Deputy Mayor Deschamps, I think you have that motion.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, the municipal council approves payment of municipal invoices circulated and dated as follows. Report dated June 28th, 2021-72, $191,328.42. Report dated June 30th, 2021-74, $146,604.71. Report dated July 15th, 2021-77, $148,428.10. Report dated July 16th, 2021-78, $165,842.49. Report dated July 21st, 2021-82, $148,532.78 for a total of $800,736.50.
Okay, thank you very much. The motion is on the floor. Discussion with the disbursement sheets, if any. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a few questions, and I would like to apologize to staff that I just didn't have the time to call in with these questions today. I'll try and keep it as brief as possible, but on page 113, and it's item under 834496-1 under Beach Hardware regarding a gas pressure washer. My question is, where is that going to be used?
So through the chair of the staff, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll have Mr. Spencer respond to that.
Thank you, through the mayor to Councillor Cameron. It's purchased for the Parks and Rec Department. It was utilized in the spring for cleaning our pools, and it was a replacement of an old one that we had.
Okay, thank you. Just a follow-up question on that one, Mr. Mayor. Is there any chance that being a gas portable pressure washer, perhaps it could be used on the waterfront walkway to remove the debris left by Canada's gift to the United States, the Canada geese?
Water.
Through the chair.
Through the chair, it's possible.
I'll leave that. I'll leave it at that. Then.
Why do you hesitate?
Well, because it would be an everyday cleanup. And I don't know that I would have the availability of staff every day to do the project. I mean, it could certainly be done occasionally, but certainly not every day. I couldn't go down there for an hour or two and clean the walkway.
No, and we understand that can be done every day, but I too have had complaints over the weekend on that exact issue. And I didn't realize that we had purchased a gas portable, but now that I know that we do, can we look forward to seeing some cleanup done there occasionally?
Yes, you can.
Thank you very much. That
Thank
satisfies the
you. It
question.
does, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. And my next question is regarding on page 114, and it's Island City training. And I'm just Okay, I guess it's fire department. N95 fit testing.
I suspect that that's the N95 masks, but
That
through
would
the
be
chair.
the mask.
Yeah, through the mayor, that would be the half masks that are required to be appropriately fit tested, similar to the SCBA face piece.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's, now I do have another one here, or a couple more actually.
Page.
Yes, it's on page 115, and I'll skip the one that I was going to, but I do have another one, and it's EFT under Nick E. Mill regarding WHP. I'd just like to know what WHP is.
Okay, so it's still page 115.
Yes, it is.
WHP matter.
Yes.
So that's a personnel matter that we've got a third party in assisting us through.
Thank you. Yes, I do have one more that I'm aware of, Mr. Mayor, and I just want to, yes, and it's on page 122. And it's a EFT to Mr. Spencer. It's regarding $12,000 for park benches, et cetera, dog station, et cetera. My question would be, with an amount that much, why is it going through a personal account? Why would that not be paid for by the township with an invoice from a company?
Through the chair.
I don't mind answering that. It's supply and demand. The company that we purchased in the past, we tried to get the park benches and they were unavailable. I found another company online and they were able to deliver the benches within a 3-day time span. We did not have an account with them. It would take 7 to 10 days to have an account rectified with them. So I use my own personal visa because my township visa doesn't have that credit limit on it. So I use my own personal visa to obtain the purchase so we could get the benches in and get them installed.
So it was a bit of an emergency.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. And I do believe, just give me 1 second, Mr. Mayor. On page 127, under Prescott Building Center, the third item down, rec path walkway protection. I'm just curious as what protection would be.
Through the chair to Councillor Cameron, right in front of the Legion, we have put a wood barrier because the walkway and the drop off is so close. So
Yes.
we made that wood fence there
Okay.
to protect the people.
Yes,
It wasn't part of the contract.
okay.
I think we've all noticed it.
Yes, we have. Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions with regard to the disbursement sheets before I call the question? Hearing none, I'm about to call the question. Those in favor? Motion is carried. Now, just before I go on, I see that we have some guests in the chamber. So I thought, because the meeting is basically concluding, I should make a few remarks. First of all, to welcome the guests. It's very seldom that we get folks in the chambers. Glad to see somebody here after so many years, so many months of us sitting by ourselves.
Making sure everything's running well.
Thank you very much. So just by way of explanation, the council meets basically 4 times a month. The first Monday of the month is the Community Development Committee meeting chaired by Deputy Mayor Deschamps. A lot of business conducted at that meeting. And that committee and all committees make no decisions. All they do is recommend to council. But actually, the real work of council goes on at the committee meetings. The second Monday of the month is the Administration and Finance Committee meeting. Those meetings generally last 2 to 3 hours. And again, they deal with administration and finance matters. And they make recommendations to council as well. And then the third Monday of the month is the Public Works, Environmental Services and Facilities Committee. All these are committees of the whole. And this committee is chaired by Councillor Cameron on the third Monday of the month. That committee also makes recommendations. So then on the fourth Monday of the month, which is today, all of those recommendations from those committees come to council. And so consequently, there's never a great deal of discussion of the issue that's being brought forward by motion. It's because the discussion has taken place at the committee meeting. And, you know, sometimes people change their mind between the position they took at the committee meeting and the council meeting. But by and large, the council meeting proceeds rather expeditiously to just basically operationalize and solidify the decisions that were made by the committees. So that'll explain that, and I think it needs an explanation. Otherwise, you folks walk in and you see, oh my goodness, they were gone in 15 minutes and nobody raised any questions, and you think we're sleeping at the switch, but that's not the case. The last thing I just wanted to mention is in the case of the disbursement sheets, which we just dealt with, those disbursement sheets are circulated to council members on the Friday with the agenda package. And as you heard, Councillor Cameron apologized because generally we try to get those questions to staff before we get to the council meeting, but sometimes we have busy lives too, and we don't get a chance to make the phone calls on the Monday. So now I'm going to, with those few words, again, re-welcome you back. And I'm going to proceed now to item number 11 on the agenda, which is the bylaws. And I'll just explain one thing from our procedural bylaw. Our procedural bylaw requires that all bylaws receive 3 readings. The first and second readings are done concurrently, and as our procedural bylaw dictates, if a bylaw receives unanimous approval of council at first and second reading, then that bylaw proceeds to third reading at the same meeting. If, however, it fails to receive unanimous approval at first and second reading, it's delayed 1 month to the next meeting of council and gets third reading 1 month later. So that's just a little bit of procedural bylaw for you. And I'll go now to item number 11A, which is the bylaw to dissolve the ward system within the township. And it is coming forward for third and final reading. Councillor Hunter, I believe you have the reading.
I do. Move myself, second by Councillor Stephen Dillabaugh. Bylaw to dissolve the ward system of elected representative and institute an at-large system of electoral representative in the township of Edgeburg Cardinal. Be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2021-42.
Okay, so this bylaw is up for third reading, discussion if any. And before we proceed, I'm going to ask for a recorded vote. And I'm going to give every member of council an opportunity to speak to the bylaw. Third reading. Councillor Cameron, you wanted to go first.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we have discussed and as most of the committee knows, I'm not in favor of this bylaw at all. But Mr. Mayor, there was a survey done by a ratepayer, and I'm somewhat disappointed. I'd really like an answer from staff if I could get it. There was a survey sent out to each and every one of the councillors, plus to the township here. And I'm really, really disappointed that the results of that were not in our package. I'm just wondering why would that be omitted from our package?
Through the chair.
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would certainly say timing. All members of council had received that information, so I didn't see it as urgent to place on.
But was there a communication directed? Was there a communication received at the municipal office that was directed to mayor and council?
Sorry?
Was there a communication received at the municipal office that was directed to mayor and council?
I anticipate that email correspondence was.
Our procedure requires that it be in the package. I'll be honest with you, I knew there was a survey, but I didn't see it.
If I could, I thank you for that, for those remarks, staff. Again, I am disappointed it was not in the package, but I would just like to just briefly mention this survey. Again, it was done by one of our ratepayers. He conducted it on Facebook. The total poll results of 54 people within 29 hours, by the way, was for 1 in every 133 people in the township. In perspective, average Canadian political polling is 1 in about every 18,000 people. Far greater representation by population in this poll. Only 18.5% of the polled population want a change to an at-large system. Over 57% do not want any change, and 24% would like to keep the ward system with some modification. 81.5% of polled population believe this type of decision should be handled by a referendum. And I have been saying all along, Mr. Mayor, between the 5 council members sitting here at this table, we should not be making those decisions. That is a public input situation, whether it be handled by referendum or otherwise. That's really all I have to say at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Other speakers before I call the question? Councillor Hunter.
Well, in the first place, Facebook's polls can be easily manipulated to say whatever you want them to say. You have no idea who the 54 people were that polled in there. They could be from 6 different houses. So I don't take them as credible. In second place, the ward system was set up in the first place with no consultation of the public whatsoever. It was 2 councils met, an amalgamation, and decided they're having a ward system. Nobody in either township got to say whether they wanted a ward system or didn't want a ward system at the time. It's a council decision. It's mandated to be a council decision. The ward system, we're one of the few townships in Ontario that operate under a ward system. I believe only one in Eastern Ontario from here to the back border operates on a ward system. City of Brockville did away with the ward system a number of years ago. They're a city and they did away with it. North Grenville was took in 3 municipalities and didn't operate under a ward system. It's an open election. Every single person in the township should have the right to vote for every person that's sitting on this council table. You're in a ward system, you end up with people getting acclaimed in certain wards because nobody runs against them. You end up with wards where there's only 2 people compete for a seat, where another ward has 6 or 7 people competing for that seat. Open election system gives everybody the opportunity to run for council wherever they live in the township, and gives everybody in the township the right to vote for them. We're elected here, whether you're a ward or open election, you're elected to represent the whole township. If you're elected in a ward system, all you campaign in is in your ward. You meet the people in your ward. You don't go and see the whole township. You don't find all the areas of the township. You don't meet all the people of the township. That's why 2 elections ago, we made it that the deputy had to go to all the wards. He was no longer appointed under council. Mayor has always had to go to the township. But the other three councillors represent the whole township too, not just their ward. So it's only fair, I believe, that every single person has the right to cast a vote for who they want. You know, you're elected, doesn't matter whether you're from Shanley, Spencerville, Johnstown, Cardinal, wherever. You've got to represent the whole township, and you should know the whole township. And the only way you're going to do that is by having an open election. Plus the fact you get rid of this constant bickering between the township here ever since amalgamation, us against them. It's Cardinal against Edwardsburg, north against south. That's got to stop. The only way to stop it is have everybody being elected in an open election.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Honey. Took a lot of my thunder, actually. When I decided to run for council, I decided to run for a Cardinal council seat. I had a few people talk to me about, why I was running, and I told them, and they said, well, why not run for deputy mayor? That way you're actually running with support of all members of your community, not just Cardinal members of the community. And I thought about it for a while, and then I thought, well, you know what? I guess I'm going to have to take my papers back out and have other people sign them again and run for a different position, because I certainly ran with the intention of, we all swore the exact same oath, and that was to represent all of the people of Edwardsburg Cardinal equally and to the best of our ability. And while I believe every member at this council table does exactly that, I don't believe that anyone at this council table only represents the ward that they were elected by. I do believe that they look after the interests the best, but the reality is, in an election, they only answer to the people of that ward, not to the other ones. And for myself, it was enough to make me want to run for a position that the people of the entire municipality, that one municipality, had to choose me. And I'm happy to move this forward. I'm happy to see this moving ahead. Sure, there are some questions, I think, as far as educating our residents to how a new election and an at-large election system will work. There is going to be some questions and some confusion that we'll have to clear up. I think that we have to do that, and that's part of the process of the next year and a bit before that election. And it is our staff's responsibility to make sure that all the residents are clear on what that system will follow. But this is a 2020 style system or 2021 style system, not a 1993 amalgamation response. And you're exactly right in saying that. Those are my comments.
Next speaker. We're not. I don't think we'll get into rebuttals. I think the Deputy Councillor Dillabaugh should speak.
Go ahead.
If he chooses to.
I just like to say, Councillor Hunter, well said, Deputy. I'm for taking out the ward system. I don't think it's a fair system. I never did when I ran. I represent the whole township, and everybody should understand that. It's every single taxpayer from Spencerville to Shanley, to Cardinal, to Johnstown. We represent every single person. So if there's a problem and right now, they don't get along with me and my ward, not really too much you can do. They just put up with me for another 3 years. For another year and a half. Year and a half, whatever. With this open system, you don't like when it's open, you got 3 different councils that can help you out. So I agree. I'm surprised we're wasting this much time on it. This is 2021. It shouldn't have even been brought up, I guess, even amalgamation. That's why you got the north, south, south, north. And we're not going to cure it, but at least we're going to make the steps to help it. Get rid of that. So I'm great. I don't have a problem. I'll sleep tonight on this. I'm excited that we're all gonna have to go out and knock on doors for the whole township and represent the whole township. My gracious, what's wrong with that? I don't think you're asking too much for that. So please record your vote, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and I'm just going to speak last. I'm going to vote.
Could I just have a follow-up question, answer?
Okay.
I'm well aware that I represent the entire township. I always have, and I always will. I have received calls from Ward 3, and I have received calls from Ward 2, as well as calls from Ward 1. We have to remember, and Councillor Hunter said, we represent the people. People are telling me in person, by email, and by this poll, that they do not want this system to go at large. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just going to speak last. I'm going to vote against the third reading for this reason. First of all, I was around at amalgamation in a different life, 24 meetings to combine a couple of townships. And I know what the process was like. Wasn't this town or this amalgamation, Edwardsburg Cardinal was a different one. And a ward system was implemented in the interest at that time of trying to bridge a gap between the two systems, two separate municipalities becoming one. And so I know what it went through. But after some 20-some years in municipal politics, while I recognize that the council has the right to make this decision, my political instincts tell me that there are certain issues that rise to the level where you're wise to consult the electorate. And that's been my position from the beginning. I think it would be wise to consult the electorate here on an issue of this weight. That's not going to happen, obviously, but that will explain why I'm voting the way I'm voting. So I'm about to call the question on the motion before the chair, and I'm going to call by name. Councillor Cameron, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councillor Dillabaugh, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councillor Hunter, how do you vote?
Yay.
Deputy Mayor Deschamps, how do you vote?
Yay.
And the mayor votes nay. The motion is carried. The bylaw survives third reading, and the ward system will be abolished for the next election. And the town, I believe now there's the matter goes to staff, and I don't know what's required. A bylaw has to be prepared to. Does the bylaw have to be prepared to action that, or is this the action item basically?
So
To the clerk.
Through the chair, the bylaw that you just passed actioned it, and I will be preparing a notice to the public of its passing. They have 15 days for that notice, and then there's within 45 days after the bylaw has been passed, any person or agency may appeal to what is now the Ontario Land Tribunal, which used to be LPAT. And by filing their notice of appeal, they must set out their objections of the bylaw and reasons of support of those objections. And if there's no objections received, we move on as planned. And then I follow up by contacting MPAC, informing them that the ward boundaries have been dissolved, and we move forward with the 2022 elections as an at-large system.
So in other words, there is an appeal process to the public.
There is, correct, and there will be notice given in our website and on local newspapers.
Okay. All right, so everybody understands the process that begins to unfold now, and that's the process. Okay, so I'm moving on now then to item number 11B on the agenda, which is to amend a site plan control agreement with ELC Automotive. Councillor Dillabaugh, I believe you have that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Deschamps that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to authorize an amendment to the site plan control agreement ELC Automotive registered as instrument number GC 61217 as authorized by the bylaw 2019-60. And this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
Okay, first and second reading for the site plan agreement amendment. Discussion, if any. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
And so that bylaw gets a unanimous reading on first and second. And Councillor, you can proceed to third reading.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Michelle, it's the bylaw authorized amendment and site plan control agreement, ELC Automotive, registered as instrument number GC 61217, is authorized bylaw 2019-60. We now read a third time, finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2021-43.
Okay, bylaws up for third reading, discussion if any, hearing none. Those in favor? Bylaw gets unanimous approval on third reading. Mr. ELC Automotive gets his site plan agreement amendment. And so now I'm proceeding to bylaw number 11C, which is a cormorant control agreement for the OPG lands, and Deputy Mayor Deschamps, I believe you have that bylaw.
I do. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to enter into a license amending agreement with Ontario Power Generation Incorporated, OPG, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
Okay, and about discussion if any? Hearing none. Those in favor? And so that bylaw gets unanimous approval on first and second reading, and it can proceed to third reading. Go ahead.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that a bylaw to enter into a license amending agreement with Ontario Power Generation Incorporated, OPG, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2021-44.
Thank you very much. Discussion?
Just quick
Go ahead.
comment. I just want to compliment council and staff and the trapper, John Courtney, for the very responsible way over the past several years that we've managed this issue. Compliment OPG for helping us manage the cormorant issue, not to cull the entire population, but to control the population. I think it's the right and the most responsible way to manage our fisheries and the bird population as well. So well done to everyone involved in this. Thank you.
Good comment, and I guess my concern is that nobody has learned from what we've been able
It's
to.
unfortunate that September is going to happen, but it's going to happen.
Yep. All right, about to call the question on third reading. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. And so that agreement, it's a year-to-year agreement, as I understand it. Up to 5 years renewable, I believe.
Best money we spent.
Okay, so now just before I proceed to the administrative update, which is next on the agenda, I'm going to ask the clerk if she would just come forward. I've seen the picture has arrived. I'd like you to send it to yourself because when it comes to the mayor's report, I'd like the council to see this. And it came to me from Mr. Daly. So where did it come to me? How would it have come to me? Probably in there's the picture. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, I don't know how to forward a text message, at least I can't remember
So,
on a rush. Did it go? There it goes. Thank you very much. So you'd have that on the screen during the mayor's report. I appreciate it. All right, so I'm proceeding now to the CAO's report. And before the CAO starts, I will get the motion to receive his report put on the floor, and we'll deal with it after his report. So Councillor Cameron, would you put that motion on the floor, please?
I will, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, that Municipal Council receives the CAO's administrative report as presented.
Thank you very much. The motion is on the floor. Let's turn the meeting over to the CAO to present his report. If you would, please. Mr. Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just highlight a couple areas within the report on page 138 of 144. With respect to the job site challenge, the submission to the site selector Newmark was completed on July 23rd. The ISIP Green Stream intake. This is the second intake of the funding for the Green Stream under the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. It opened on July 13th and it closes on September 9th. The intake this time will focus on drinking water projects, And staff is looking to prepare a submission for the County Road to Water and Sewer project in the village of Cardinal. On the bottom of the page, just note the upcoming meeting schedule. There's some additional meetings in the next several weeks. This Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Spencerville Fire Station is the public meeting with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment for David Street. On Wednesday, August 4th, we have our open house for zoning bylaw review, and it's in the at the Cardinal Legion from 3 to 5, and at the South Edwardsburg Center from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. On Thursday, August 5th, we'll have another open house here at the council chambers between 10 a.m. and noon, and a virtual from 1 to 3 p.m. in addition to our regular scheduled meetings for the month of August. On page 139 under Treasury, just a note that the 2021 final tax bills, that we'll be looking to mail out those final tax bills in the first week of August with the due date of August 31st. Under Facilities and Recreation, sort of the first session of the swim program and the day camp has been completed. Well received from the children participating and parents. So sort of kudos to staff on that program. With respect to the Ingredient Center, we'll start to put the ice in Wednesday of this week, with the facility opened on August 7th, both for rentals and the walking track. Under operations for Public Works, the hot mix program scheduled to start later this week, and the plan is to have this completed by the end of August. On page 140 of 144, with respect to equipment, we had an inquiry from South Dundas about the use of our operator and excavator for two large road cross culverts that are scheduled for tomorrow and Wednesday. So we will be assisting South Dundas as a partner in that project. Environmental services, with respect to the water treatment plant, we've had the annual lab equipment calibrations will be performed later this week. And I think with respect to the windmill point or the raw water pumping station, that we had a sort of a pre-engineering meeting to look at pump and panel upgrades with respect to the Greenfield Global project expansion, where they'll be requiring some additional water volume. Under operations with respect to municipal drains, the Barclay drain in South Dundas, they've invoiced us for maintenance work performed on that drain, and in August we will be bringing forth a bylaw with respect to outlining the billing process. Fire department, with respect to facilities, there was some discussion at the last committee of the whole, Public Works, with respect to seeing if we could expedite the additional wells to see the potential extent of the hydrocarbons found in one of the test wells. So we will look to see about completing that work later this year with the additional revenue that we've received from the MTO calls. We should be okay to achieve budget that way. With respect to fleet, upcoming pump testing is scheduled for September 16th. And later this fall, the fire department will complete the hose testing requirements. I think that's basically a summary, and certainly there's any questions, I will, on anything that I haven't touched on, we'll certainly endeavor to answer those questions.
Okay, the floor is open for discussion and questions of the CAO. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I apologize. Normally I would ask in advance, and somehow I missed this, but the only one that I had that I missed was the windmill pumping station. And forgive my ignorance, I'm not sure what a photocell is on the exterior light, and how large of a concern is the groundwater in the main valve chamber?
Certainly, through the mayor, photo cell is just simply that it's photo activated for the lights, the exterior lights to come on. Pumping groundwater out of the water main valve chamber, that's a periodic item that we do on a number of those chambers. Nothing of concern in that regard.
Thank you.
Other questions of the CAO? Councillor Dillabaugh?
Yes, I just have a thank you for the recreation on the day camp. All I've heard was positive outcomes of it, and I've seen it with my own eyes. The staff, very, very professional. I can't say enough how well the staff was, Mr. Spencer, and your parks and surrounding areas are just absolutely great. And you guys do deserve a good thank you, hard work.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to staff.
Thank you.
Well said.
Other questions of the CAO? Councillor Cameron, Councillor Hunter? Otherwise I'm going to have a few.
I just have one, for the pagers that were issued to our new, do we have pagers in stock, or did we have to buy more pagers?
I'm not sure. There would be some pagers in stock. I just don't know if there's enough to accommodate all those recruits.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I have just a few, if you would, Mr. Grant. So first of all, I noticed there on page 139 that the treasurer is bringing the RBC banking agreement forward in August. I was just wondering why has there been a change, because I thought we had approved that, or why is it coming back again?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll ask the treasurer to speak to that.
Certainly, through the chair, the agreement is to expire in September. It has not been in front of the committee as of yet.
Well, it hasn't been in front of a committee. So is it coming to the Admin Finance Committee?
It will
Okay.
come to the office next month.
Where did the discussion come from that I recall, and that it was being redone? Somehow I know that it's up for renewal.
Okay. I just.
Through the chair, the Port General Manager brought it up as a note during the investment discussion last Wednesday evening.
Thanks very much. Too many meetings. Thanks very much. I hope you're going to be able to get a better rate than he was able to report, but I do recall that discussion now. So moving on, do we have down to the day camp and the swimming program? What were the numbers in the first swimming program, day camp swimming program, and do we have those same numbers holding firm for the second and third sessions?
So the day camp is set with 20 kids per session, and that's what we capped it at based on COVID restrictions. We had 160 people register for the 60 positions, so obviously there was quite a few that didn't get in. There's no one that has been given a repeat, so they're only in for one session. Multiple people asked for more than one session, but we're only given one. And they're all township kids that got into the day camp this year, as opposed to other years where we have taken kids from Prescott or Augusta Township when the numbers were permitted to be more in greater number. As far as the swimming lesson goes, each pool, the Cardinal pool had 55 kids registered for the first session. And again, that's down a little bit from 219, but it's down because of COVID restrictions, because we have to extend the class we have to have longer periods in between classes for cleaning purposes and what have you. And there were still some parents registering for the fourth session. So the second session is happening right now, runs through till the end of this week. And then there's a 1 week break next week. And then the third session is starts on the 9th of August. Next week, we have our Bronze Cross, which is, we have 16 kids registered for that. And that's all kids that will potentially over the course of the winter get their NLS and their instructors courses so that we'll be able to utilize them next summer.
Okay, so there's no shrinkage on the numbers are holding good.
The numbers are holding good, that is correct. Yeah, we will definitely use the 250 free lessons that were donated through Greenfield and Ingredion. That's what it represents. The $10,000 represents 250 free swimming lessons that we offer between the two pools. And that's where that money comes from.
Okay.
There's a bat, yeah. There's a bat in Rebecca's office.
Someone else is going to pick up a person.
Steve closed him into your office.
So you have
I just didn't want to come again.
Fearless, but I got him.
So you have something to look forward to at the end of the meeting.
We brought excitement for the new.
So thank you very much. I appreciate the answer. Thanks very much.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more too.
Hang on just 1 second.
Sorry, I didn't mean to steal from you.
I went around the table once and I'm gonna just finish up. I have a few more and then I'll come back to Deputy Mayor first and yourself second. So you answered this question in a way, but I'm gonna refer back to it again, Mr. Spencer. So through the CAO, because the CAO has got the chair right now, or he's the one making the report. Back to the waterfront parkway again, the waterfront walkway, and the geese thing. I just want to reiterate that it's not just one question, but several questions about the geese. And I know that some suggestion has been made as to how to keep the geese away from the walkway. So to the CAO, has there been any thought of attempting that solution that's been suggested from several parties that I've heard it?
I know that there was some brief discussion at committee on this item. It's certainly something that Mr. Spencer and myself have sort of looked at. But we're talking about almost a kilometer of waterfront with putting in some stakes and rope at a level with respect of potential trip hazards and items like that. So we're evaluating some potential other solutions as well.
Okay, I guess the point that I'm making is the mess is not good. So I think I have one more here someplace. The assistance to South Dundas, what street is that on, or what road is that on? It's a cross culvert.
I'm not sure if the director of operations is. I'm not sure of the exact location.
I don't recall the name, but it's north of Glen Stewart. There's a side road, it's a double culvert off there between the County Road 1, or it's 18 on that spot maybe, and Bridston Road.
Okay, but it's in their township.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and I had the same concern about the groundwater in the main valve chamber, but you're saying that it's not something that gets up to the level where it can do damage.
That is correct.
Okay, all right, so those are my questions. Now I'll go back to Deputy Mayor and then to Councillor.
Sorry for intruding on you there. Mine, and I didn't have this one written down, but it just popped up. The ice rental becomes available August 7th.
That's correct.
And through booking again, or through booking? And do you anticipate a fair amount of availability in that first little bit? Or
I opened the system on Friday. I've uploaded for our normal users. There's not a whole lot left.
So if somebody was looking, they can go on now or only the normal users?
No, they can go on now. It's
Okay.
open to the public.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Councillor Delwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry about that. Duly chaired by the CEO and the treasurer. It says here on page, excuse me, 139 of 144, postage machine. Current lease postage machine is almost 10 years old. Staff is investigating options to upgrade machine. Is there any way we could upgrade where it folds them, puts them in envelopes, seals them too? When we're at that, instead of having individual people stuffing envelopes.
So maybe I'll have the treasurer give you an answer on that.
Sure. Through the chair, I am investigating both options. It won't be a combined machine. It would actually have to be two separate machines, but I'm getting pricing on both a new postage upgrade machine and a letter sorter.
That will sort. Thank you. Good call.
Okay, any further questions of the CAO before I call the question to receive the CAO's report as presented? No further questions. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, so now I'm moving to item number 13 on the agenda, which is council inquiries or notices of motion. Are there any council inquiries or notices of motion here this evening? Hearing none, I'm about to move on to the item number 14. Item number 14 is the mayor's report. Kind of hoping that the clerk is going to be able to put this picture up for you. This is something that happened very quickly today. And so I know Mr. Daly was putting out fires most of the morning when this occurred. So what you're going to see, if the treasurer gets it up, is a large project cargo that came from India. A very, very large cylinder. I can't remember the weight or the length, but that project cargo came from India on an ocean-going ship destined to the port of Montreal. And when it came to the port of Montreal, it was offloaded off the freighter, and it was to be moved from the port of Montreal to its final destination by a transport company. Somehow or another, the transport company determined that they would not be able to get it off port lands in Montreal, that it was too large to move on the road network. And consequently, there was a flurry of activity that went on. Mr. Daly was contacted by the tug and barge company to see if we could handle it at our port if the Port of Montreal was to load it back onto a barge. And Mr. Daly immediately took advantage of the situation and had made the arrangement for the barge and tug company to contact Logistec. Logistec swung into action immediately, and as an end result, the cylinder was loaded back onto a barge, pushed by a tug, and brought to the port of Johnstown, 35 hours nonstop. I spoke to the crew of the tug, they were pretty much worn out. Brought to the port of Johnstown, and the transport company and the cranes arrived almost simultaneously with the cargo. There it is there. Arrived almost simultaneous with the cargo. It was offloaded off the barge onto that large trailer that you can see and taken off the port property through the side, what I call the side yard, up through the Canada Border Services property and off to its final destination, which is someplace in Northern Ontario. I can't remember where. But I just wanted to sort of put that up as part of the mayor's report, because it is the kind of cargo that comes to us kind of last minute type of thing. And it wouldn't be coming except for the work that council has done to, council and the Port Management Committee have done to make all of the facilities available as they are. So you have a question?
Mr. Mayor, I was just thinking, for the sake of the people in the gallery, perhaps you could give just a very brief overview of what the port and the township are connected.
Oh, yes, well, the clerk advises me that you're new residents to the township, so I should explain, as Councillor Cameron has asked, that in the year 2000, the port of what was then called the Port of Prescott was divested from the federal government to the township of Edwardsburg Cardinal. And so the township became the owner of the port of Prescott at the time. Subsequently, we changed the name from Port of Prescott to Port of Johnstown. Councillor Hunter, I think, was around when that happened. And since that time, actually going right back to the year 2000, the port has been operated on a very successful financial basis. It grosses revenues in excess of $7 to $8 million a year, depending on the year. The elevator that you see there, which most people think is a derelict building, is actually a full working elevator built in the 1930s and accommodates about 3 turns per year of soybeans and corn. In other words, soybean and corn come in during the harvest season to that elevator, which acts as a third-party clean hands representative between the farmer and the broker. So the farmer makes his deal to sell his corn to the broker. The broker specifies that it gets delivered to the Port of Johnstown. Then the Port of Johnstown receives it, weighs it, grades it, cleans it, stores it, and eventually ships it out, and if necessary, dries it in between. And over the past few years, we've invested pretty much in excess of $100 million through various grant programs and our own finances. We've invested that amount of money to bring the port up to date, and we're still working on it. And I might also say that out of the revenues that are generated from the port, about $800,000 a year comes directly from the port accounts, and we operate the port as a separate division of the township. It has its own bank account, its own checking account. It has its own chart of accounts. It has its own port management committee. It has its own port staff and port general manager, all separate from the township. And each year it contributes out of gross revenues approximately $800,000 back to the township, which the township uses to defray taxes to the general taxpayer, probably representing about a 15% increase, what would be a 15% increase in the tax rate. So is that's a little quick snap.
I think that's perfect, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go on with the mayor's report, and there's a number of other things to talk about. First thing I want to mention is that on Wednesday, the new CAO of the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, and Mr. Grant doesn't know this, I don't want to surprise you with this information, Mr. Grant, but it just came to me this afternoon late. The CAO of the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville will come here, and he wants to know more about our township. And he's, as the CAO for the United Counties, he's trying to get around to all the townships, but I think he recognizes fairly early in his tenure that we are one of the more aggressive and busy townships of the 10. So he wants to come here first. He wants to talk about a number of items. So if anybody would like to meet him, he's going to arrive someplace around 1 o'clock and take a private meeting in the back room by telephone. And then when that meeting is finished, I'll be spending the rest of the afternoon and the evening with him. So anybody who wants to meet him, they're welcome to come.
When is that, Mr. Mayor?
That's going to be on Wednesday, starting about 2 o'clock, say 1:45, something like that. Anybody wants to show up here and meet him. And I know Mr. Grant will want to meet him, and any of the other staff, Mr. Grant.
And that is this coming Wednesday?
Yes.
Thank you.
Second item on my agenda. I do want to inform council, I think officially, that the CAO and I met with Mayor Malenka, the CAO of Augusta, Mr. Brian Brown, and the Deputy Mayor, Mr. Jeff Shaver. We met with them last week to discuss a wide range of issues, and the meeting was put together very hurriedly by Mayor Malenka, who had asked me if I could find a time to come and speak to he and his CAO and his deputy mayor, I didn't know it was deputy mayor would be there, apologize to my deputy mayor, but I didn't realize until we got there that the deputy mayor would be there. It was a Tuesday. But anyway, he had a wide range of things that he wanted to talk about. And it all centered around, are there ways that we can work together more closely with Augusta Township? And of course, as you know, in the last 6, 8, 10, 12 months, Augusta and Prescott have kind of formed a multifaceted relationship where they're working on a number of economic development issues together. And he just wanted to see if there's something we could do together. And I think one of the things that we kind of pitched to him is that we're still interested in trying to find a way to work together to beef up our building departments. And the two CAOs are going to meet now while Mayor Malanka is out of the country on holiday for a few weeks. And when he comes back, we'll meet again and there will be follow-up meetings. Just wanted to mention that. Now, the last item on my report concerns the Ontario Job Site Challenge. And one of the things that I learned a long time ago is that a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I want to say to council that this is my file for the Ontario Job Site Challenge. And I just want to review where we are with Ontario Job Site Challenge. And it's a long history. So on February the 15th, 2019, the province issued the Ontario Job Site Challenge, and they issued it over a white paper called Driving Prosperity, the Future of Ontario's Automotive Sector. That was the title of their white paper. And they pointed out in their white paper that it's been well over 10 years since any major automotive manufacturer has located or come to make investment in the province of Ontario. And they pointed out as well that they feel that the main reason for that was because there was no large sites that were immediately ready for development that they could be taking to the international marketplace. So the purpose of the Job Site Challenge was to find a large site, 500 to 1,500 acres, which would meet this need. On February the 25th, 10 days after the province issued the challenge, our council responded with a resolution nominating the Cedar Grove Road site, which was their own land. On July the 2nd, 2019, a few months later, the township filed a 10-page proposal to the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, it was a proposal brief, and we began consultations with the province in July of 2019. In October of 2019, the province issued its first request for submissions with a deadline of March the 31st. We met that March the 31st deadline, and in fact, we filed our report to them in answer to their request for submissions. We filed it on March the 24th of 2020, and we received acknowledgement that it had been received on March the 25th of 2020. Forward a few months to October 2020, and the province issues a second request for submissions, a 29-page questionnaire looking for additional detail in a prescribed format that we would resubmit back to them. We met the deadline, and I can't remember what it was, and filed our response to that second request sometime in late 2020. On January the 25th, a few months later, we met with Minister Sarkaria. It was a virtual delegation during the Roma conference. We met with Minister Sarkaria, and we asked him if he could tell us what was happening, that we hadn't had much response. And we asked him to outline the process to us, what process the province would next follow. And he outlined that to us. And on February the 8th of 2021, the province announced that Newmark had been selected as the international site selector to help the province winnow through the 19 applications and come down to the last 3. Or as it turns out, first of all, come down to the last 10. So that was announced on February the 28th. On March the 29th, which was almost 2 months later, we still hadn't heard anything from Newmark or from the minister. And I wrote as the mayor to Minister Sarkaria saying, Minister, would you please give us more information as to how this process is going to unfold? We haven't heard anything from you since our meeting of January the 25th. Minister didn't respond to that letter, but in an undated letter that we received around June the 3rd or the 4th, we had a letter from David Barnes, the Assistant Deputy Minister from the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, announcing that our nomination would proceed to the final round of evaluation and that Newmark would be getting in touch with us. On June the 21st, we met with Newmark in a meeting where I think all council was invited to be present, although I think there were a number that couldn't be here. And the folks from Newmark gave us an opportunity to present them with a PowerPoint presentation, which was the first time that we had been able to present some visuals of our site and the attributes that our site brought to its application. They then proceeded to tell us that they were looking for another round of input, and they gave us a tentative deadline to meet that third round of input. Now, the third round of input was a detailed questionnaire, and they wanted everything submitted to them in Excel spreadsheet form. So there are 8 pages that we've been working on since June the 21st. Now, our staff has been working very diligently on their sections of the report, and our engineers have been working on their sections of the report. And finally, on July the 23rd, as the CAO indicated in his report, we filed our final submission to Newmark in this evaluation process. Now, let me say to council and to the public, anybody that happens to be watching this video or folks that are here tonight, we have spent close to $100,000, all things considered, and engineers on this job site challenge and on our work with the province of Ontario trying to buy the 10,000 acres in the Edwardsburg Land Bank, both projects combined. We're basically spending our taxpayers' dollars, hopefully to set us up for the future, but we're spending it on province of Ontario land. Now, could we have added more detail to this last round of submission? If we had spent another $20,000 or $30,000, we could have added detail to our report. There's no question about it. But I say to council, I'm very, very appreciative of the fact that council has supported these 2 projects all the way through. I think we have done an excellent job. I think our staff has done an excellent job. I think all in all, we have put in everything that we could have, considering the fact that it's not our land and we don't yet have a deal with the province to buy the land so that it can be used for the purposes for which the province wants it to be used. So I'm just putting that all out. The meeting is being recorded. I want it on the record. The chips are down. The cards are played. Let's see where they fall. And I don't see what else we can do. And so to the staff, to our engineers, to everyone, thank you very much. We will continue our discussions with Infrastructure Ontario. And I'm gonna say that we did make a proposal to Infrastructure Ontario. I think it was in late June, Mr. CAO. If I recall the date, it was June the 26th.
June 29th.
June 29th, the Friday following the meeting, you're right. We made that pitch to Ontario, Infrastructure Ontario. This is what we're prepared to do to buy your 10,000 acres. We had a response from our intermediary, a chap by the name of Will Plexman. What, was it last Wednesday, Mr. Grant?
I believe that was Friday.
Friday, 23rd, same day we submitted. So we had a response from Mr. Plexman outlining all the areas in which our offer fell short of their expectations, in spite of the fact that our expectations have been made very clear since October 2020. That issue of negotiations with Infrastructure Ontario is now basically on hold for a couple of weeks. Mr. Plexman will be on holidays. Some of his associates will be on holidays. Mr. Grant will be on holidays. And in the meantime, the world works in mysterious ways in the background. And I think we let that process play itself out in the background. And when Mr. Grant comes back from holidays, we'll pick up the pieces wherever they may lie and proceed from there. So that concludes my report. Ready for questions, if any. And I think that Deputy Mayor Deschamps has the motion to receive the mayor's report.
I do. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that municipal council receives the mayor's report as presented.
Okay, thank you very much. The motion is on the floor. Questions, if any, about the mayor's report? Hearing none, about to call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Okay, so now I'm proceeding on to item number 15 on the agenda. Item number 15 is the question period. And for the first time in many, many months, we have folks in the audience. No reporters present, I don't believe.
We have one on screen too.
And we have an individual on the screen as well, so I'm going to open the floor for questions from the public. Any questions from the chambers? No questions? Are there any questions from the people attending by Zoom?
I think it said in the chat, no questions.
No questions.
No questions from the chat room? Okay, I'm moving on then to item number 16 on the agenda. We have no further closed session. We had a closed session prior to this meeting to meet with our lawyers, but no additional closed session this evening. And so I'm proceeding to item number 17 on the agenda, which is the confirmatory bylaw. And I believe, Councillor Dillabaugh, you have the confirmatory bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Deschamps that the bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by the resolution be now passed, signed, sealed, number 2021-45.
Thank you very much. And those in favor?
Aye.
Confirmatory bylaw is carried. The chair is looking for the motion to adjourn. Councillor Hunter.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Dillabaugh, that the municipal council is now adjourned at 8:08 p.m.
Thank you very much. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you.